Welcome back, everybody, to the W Sports Podcast Live. I'm here, joined alongside, as always, is the one and only Tubby Jimothy here. We are excited to break down every single one of those divisional round games. It was a pretty good weekend overall with some heartbreaking moments. But Tubby, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, there's definitely a few heartbreaking moments, but overall, we had some really good football this weekend.
Overall, there was quite a bit of football. I would say of all the games, there's only one team that forgot that they were playing this week, and that was the Houston Texans. So let me just go ahead and throw this out there. The first week, we were both 5-1 in our picks, and we continued that trend this weekend with 4 games. We each went 3-1. That's 8-2. I don't know about many experts that are out there doing that, but we're both 8-2, and combined with us both, we've gotten every single game correct so far. Just for the record, none of us have missed, right?
Right.
I think so. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna see how that goes. But Tubby, how I mean, remember 2021? We briefly talked about this on that quick podcast we had. If you didn't miss it, and you want to see our receipts about who we picked, you can go back to Saturday's YouTube episode and watch that. But for this last game, was there any how does this compare to the year in 2021 when it was like one of the greatest divisional rounds? This was a pretty good one overall.
I mean, this was a pretty good one. Most of the games, I think, every single game was within 4 points at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all really close most of the way. Second half, the Texans-Ravens game got out of hand. But really, we had some really good ones. I still think 2021, though, I mean, that divisional round, that's going to be hard to beat through playoffs, just because every game was a nail-biter.
Oh, yeah. And at this point now, we have seen every single team play that's in the playoffs, at least, whether they've been eliminated or not. But I say that because San Francisco, Baltimore both did play this week as the number 1 seeds, and they're already both advancing. We'll talk more about those games. But I want to ask the home field advantage, the crowd noise, which, from your perspective as a fan watching, has the loudest crowd, the most engaged crowd so far this year?
I mean, are we talking about playoffs?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to beat Arrowhead. I mean, Arrowhead, even as cold as it was, as many empty seats as there was, it's hard to beat. But, I mean, if we're talking about teams that are left and they're going to play home field, it's the Baltimore Ravens. That stadium gets rocky whenever they have something to play for.
Extremely impressed with the fans there. That was insane to see how loud it was. And I don't know, for those who don't know, my wife does audio engineering for ESPN and some other broadcasting networks like that. So the mics that they have for fans, but it was just so loud. I mean, she could hear, I could hear it. It was very impressive for that fandom. So for the Chiefs, we'll get into this later on in the episode with predictions, but that home crowd is ready and they are hungry for a championship opportunity here. So, why don't we go ahead and start with that right now? We had the Houston Texans went into halftime with some momentum. We texted back and forth about this after that punt return touchdown, and then they stopped Baltimore. It was like, you got to go score at least a field goal. Touchdown would have been huge. They never did. They never saw the end zone. Just from your perspective, what did you see that didn't go well for the Texans?
I mean, really, most of that game, they were outmatched from start to finish. That offensive line struggled. They couldn't hear. The crowd was a big factor. You have a young quarterback. You got a lot of young guys on that team, and you can tell the moment was just a little too big for them at that point. They came out super flat for the most part. But, I mean, you got to give it to the Ravens. They just did what they've been doing all year. First half was a little sluggish, but really, I think for the score, they moved the ball pretty well. Just had a couple untimely offensive penalties that kind of pushed them back, or a sack, which I was surprised as much pressure as that they were getting on Lamar Jackson for as mobile as he is, especially in the first half. But, I mean, really, it was just pretty much start to finish. The Ravens really controlled that game. Even the momentum swings with the punt return and, the stop on, right before halftime and potentially getting points, you still really never felt like, or at least me, never really felt like the Houston Texans legitimately had a chance, because it just seemed like they were completely outmatched, especially that first half, even though they went in at 10-10 at the halftime.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you 100%. It felt like they never got into a rhythm. That's what didn't go right for them. They weren't able to run the ball. Singletary had 9 attempts, and then was it Dare? I'm not even trying to pronounce his last name. Can you say it?
Gumawali.
Gomawale. Okay, thank you. 11 total carries. I mean, it was like a 3-to-1 ratio as far as pass plays, and they didn't have the ball that much. Baltimore continued
Mm-hmm.
to just run the ball, and they had it, and they didn't have to look away. So that was really impressive on that side. So what did Baltimore do well in your eyes as the number one seed, holding it down?
I mean, I felt like just the pressure that they were putting on Stroud early on. They got
Oh
a
yeah,
young quarterback uncomfortable. And one thing that Slowick did towards the end of the first half, when Texans kind of started building up a little bit momentum, they started moving the pocket for him. But the Ravens adjusted to that in the second half. And I mean, really, they, like you said, they kept them, especially on the defensive side, kept the Texans offense from being able to get into any rhythm at all. And that was the biggest part. I mean, when Stroud is in rhythm and on point, on time, he is up there, this year showing that he's up there with some of the best quarterbacks when he's thrown in rhythm and on time. And they were able to cause that disruption. And I mean, Jadeveon Clowney had this postseason, or really especially the last few weeks,
yeah,
I've seen him a lot more like engaged, and seems like he is putting a lot more pressure, and kind of looks like the old Jadeveon Clowney that we kind of
yeah.
expected coming out of college.
Yeah, he was in the backfield constantly. It felt like, I know the stat sheet's not going
Mm-hmm.
to show a whole lot, but this year 9.5 sacks, the most that he has had since 2017, which was also his career high. So he did get the extra game this year, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, that defense just looked like they got everything right. And then
Mm-hmm.
on offense, they were able to run the ball effectively enough. They ran the ball 42 times. This is the recipe that they can win a game. They got Lamar, obviously, with 11 scrambles, minus the 3 sacks there. But Justice Hill, 13 carries, Gus Edwards, 10, and Dalvin Cook, 8. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just I mean, if you can carry the ball that many times and average 5 yards a carry, you should be fine. Lamar did have the 2 rushing touchdowns. I think this right here shows this made Baltimore look like the number one seed in this game. Absolutely
Yeah.
look like the number one seed. Um, this was the only game that you looked at, and as it went on, you're like, "Ooh, wow!" I mean, I'd be scared to play the Baltimore Ravens right now if I was the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that. But any other thoughts, I guess, that you have on this game? There's not a whole lot you can break down whenever it was that big. I mean, the fan noise, we talked about that a little bit, really got Houston out of rhythm with penalties. I think they finished with 11 penalties on the day. That's just a lot of false starts.
False starts. Yeah. I think the last thing is, I think Mike McDonald, I mean, the defense coordinator for the Ravens, I would be kind of surprised if he doesn't get a head coaching job after this year. What he's done, and what people have seen, you don't need that offensive minded coach to be successful in the NFL. I mean, look what D'Amico Ryans did
Yeah,
this year. I mean, it's if you can build that culture, and he's been in this. I mean, he was with Jim Harbaugh. That's where he got his start in college, and then John stole him from him. Was it last year from him from Michigan, and gave him his first NFL real job. And I would be surprised if someone doesn't give him a job if they don't. I mean, I think you're missing out on a guy that could potentially have a D'Amico Ryan type impact on your organization.
yeah, I love it too. You're seeing a slight shift. There was about 3 or 4
Mm-hmm.
years where everything was offense, 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 and I mean, we don't correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen offenses get that much better over the last couple of years. If
Yep.
anything, maybe they've gotten a little too cute, and that's the
Yeah.
problem at times. We'll get more into that here soon. But
Mm-hmm.
Ravens hosting this upcoming weekend. They are the favorites, I think, by at least 3.5 points. Last I saw, maybe it was 4.5. Heavy
Yeah.
favorites. Weather should be okay overall. It's just gonna be winter in Baltimore, so nothing too crazy to worry about right now. But let's jump over to the other number one seed, the San Francisco 49ers. The only game you lost, and so I'm going to give you half a loss on this one. I think your Packers fandom has to choose the Packers in that game, kind of, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to make you say that if it wasn't the Packers, you would have chosen the 49ers. But they put up a heck of a fight. Kicking came down to it. This is the first. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's hard to lose with kickers, and we can get more into that later. But um, is this more for you on Jordan Love? Is it more on the kicker? Is it on the defense? Or is it just this was a better team?
I mean, honestly, you watch it. Packers outplayed him 58 minutes. Really, it was the last 2 minutes they didn't outplay him. I think it just came down to opportunities. The Packers didn't seize those opportunities. They dropped thrown straight to him interceptions. One probably was going to go back for a pick six.
Yeah.
And the other one, went straight through Deshaun Nixon's hands. Vice versa, the 49ers, they had two opportunities at interceptions. They picked both of them off. Yeah. And so it's one of those, situations where if the Packers get one of those interceptions, they probably win that game.
Yeah.
They didn't. And, compared to the week before when they did come up with those two opportunities, picked off Dak twice, took one back for a touchdown. And then the kicking, yeah, I know a lot of people are on the kicker. Oh, he's missed the most kicks this year in the NFL. He's a rookie. And they're all like, oh, well, they could have kept Mason Crosby. Well, if you're a Packers fan, early on in Mason Crosby's career, the first season he had over 80% kicking field goals was his fifth year. Every other year was below 80. This kid comes in first year, 81%. It was really the extra points that you're kind of like, man, you missed, 5 or 6 extra points, kind of head scratching. I don't put it all on the kicker. I mean, at that point, you had a chance to go down the field. We're talking about a team that in goal go opportunities this year has been stopped once.
Wow.
Got stopped 3 times.
Yeah.
This game. It's just you didn't see those opportunities like you did the week before against Dallas. And I think that really was it. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think probably the 49ers were the better team, but I think the Packers really, they showed the future is extremely bright. I mean, you got a team that average age, player is 25 years old. Mm-hmm. And like you said last week, you've got 5 picks in the first 100 picks this year. You're just going to keep getting younger. You're probably going to, lose some of the age with David Bakhtiari and DeAndre Campbell, some of these older guys. So you're still going to be probably right there at the bottom as the youngest team in the NFL next year, with the rest of the NFC North sitting there going, how did they get it right again with another franchise quarterback?
Yeah. So that's the tough part is in this game, I think the Packers should have won the game, just not on paper, but in the actual trenches. Like you said, 58 minutes they won that game. The hard part was Jordan Love, that last throw. I know he wants it back. He says he wants it back. He puts it on him, not the kicker or anything like that. It is so difficult when you see across the body in essentially no triple coverage. That's just tough. So he would obviously like that back. But as a Packer fan, again, this was a very successful season when you weren't sure. I mean, you look around the league and the teams that are just, do we start Kenny Pickett again, right? Mm-hmm. Is it Aiden O'Connell? Do we go for something different? And you look at the Packers, and right now they can look at what the upside of this specific draft is, and they can focus on that versus having to say, we got to get ourselves a quarterback. They at least can say, we're going to sign him. We believe in what he's doing because he shows that promise that we can focus and build the strengths around this team. And this could be a dangerous team for the next couple of years. I mean, the way they're set up, and like you said, all the age. In the game, Deebo Samuel did get hurt. I don't know if they've mentioned about how long it's going to be for him. They're going to be eyeing that pretty close. Have you heard anything about that?
I think, if I remember what I saw correctly today, right now it's around 50-50 if he's going to play. He says he's going to play. Medical says 50-50.
That'll be, I mean, it's going to be a tough turnaround if he is. I mean, that's pretty quick. Mm-hmm. They are the later game, so, a couple hours might help.
Maybe.
But Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings had a pretty good, productive game overall in his place. Mm-hmm. I mean, this team still has all those pieces. And we'll get to this here a little bit when we get to quarterbacks. But for San Francisco, they're going to go into this game. They are the heavy favorites against the Lions. What are you seeing this team? Like, tell me why this team is going to win the NFC this week.
I think a big reason why they'll win is, Christian McCaffrey. Right. McCaffrey's the biggest Swiss Army knife in all of football. He's, arguably the best player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think part of it was preservation. He's coming off the injury, even though he had 2 weeks off. They didn't want to completely overload him a whole lot. But, really the Packers' biggest weakness all year has been the run game.
Yeah.
And even for the Lions, where the run game has been their stronger suit, they gave up a lot of big chunk runs to a team and Tampa Bay, who is one of the worst run offenses in the NFL. And so I think you're talking about a vastly better offensive line, better offensive system, and like I said, the best player in football. It really, I think this game for Brock Purdy against the Packers, he didn't look good. Really, besides that final drive, he's lucky he didn't end up with at least 2 interceptions. And but maybe it was kind of that gut check moment for them where they're like, man, we're lucky we're still here. Okay, we're ready to go. We're going to be even more prepared for this game, going against probably a better team in Detroit, who more complete team than the Packers. So I think really McCaffrey's going to have to be the big part, and their run defense, which all season had been really strong up until like the last month of the season for the 49ers, where they went from being one of the tops, and then the last 4 weeks of the season went to the 28th ranked rush defense out of just kind of nowhere. So they're going to have to find something there because Jahmyr Gibbs is running like a madman right now.
Jahmyr Gibbs is, and that's a great transition. Let's go ahead and move over. The Lions defeat Tampa Bay 31-23. Baker did throw 2 picks. The last one, I mean, it was probably one that he'd love to do over again because it wasn't like 4th and 10. I mean, he could have probably read that a little bit better. But this is a team that, I mean, this team should have. They are such a team that you look and you're like, how did this team make the playoffs, let alone win a division, and put themselves in a position to have a drive to tie it up to try and go to the NFC Championship game. I thought they did a great job overall. Mike Evans proves that, he is still a dominant wide receiver number 1, where everyone else was writing him off this year. Moving on to Chris Godwin, it was like, nope, Mike Evans still doing a great job. Almost 150 yards with the score this week. They just couldn't run the ball a lot. They ran the ball effectively. They just didn't run the ball a lot. And part of that, I think, was the score. But what were you feeling on this game? Like, what was the big win here for the Lions, or the biggest disappointment maybe for the Bucs?
I mean, it's kind of the same situation as the Packers game, where the opportunities, first half, Goff throws one straight to Jamel Dean, and Jamel Dean drops it, and then you have Mike Evans have one go straight through his hands, they pick it off, and then the interception at the end of Baker trying to force a pass. If they make that interception, you keep points off the board for Detroit, and maybe we're talking about a different game at this point. There's one thing that it scratched my head. I'm like, I don't understand why. I mean, granted, Detroit is in prime field goal position, but they stacked the ball. 30 seconds left on the clock, 16 seconds left on the play clock. You have a timeout. It's 3rd down. They take a knee. It's 4th down. And you don't call a timeout and force them to kick that field goal.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, we're talking about Michael Badgley, who hasn't been the most consistent kicker in his NFL career. This year, his furthest kick he's made is a 41-yarder. So at that point, it's probably close to a 40-yard field goal. You don't force him to kick it because you never know. You could block it. You can miss it. 30 seconds is still enough time. And you got big play receiver and Mike Evans. Yeah, they're going to play prevent defense and try to not let you get those big plays. But you didn't give yourself that chance.
Yeah.
And that's where as Todd Bowles, I'm like, you got to at least give your guys a chance. You don't just give up at that point. But I mean, hats off to the Lions. They executed their game plan. They went out there, they ran the ball down their throat. They, Jahmyr Gibbs, like the guy is going to be a menace for years on end as long as he stays healthy. Yeah. The cutting ability, that play where he's running straight towards Antoine Winfield and just whoop, and Antoine Winfield in just a blink of an eye is out of position because he's that fast, that shifty. I mean, Jared Goff, besides the one where it probably should have been picked off, he played a really good game, and he's doing what Jared Goff did at the end of last season, where he wasn't turning the football over the last few games, and that's big for them going into the playoffs. And their defense, the pass rush has kind of came alive the last few weeks. Aiden Hutchinson in the last month or so has 7 sacks, and so they've really starting to get it, the quarterback. It's still that secondary is going to be the biggest problem for them, I think, going forward.
Well, biggest challenge this week is that, I mean, they're going to be real busy with the skill position players that San Francisco has. I look at this game, and I think you're 100% right. What sucks is the Buccaneers, coaching staff, everybody, they're going to be thinking to themselves, was there a pathway for us to win despite that last interception? And like you just said, there was a blocked and missed field goal, whatever that is, and then move the ball down the field really quick to go score. Magic can happen. Miracles do happen in the playoffs. And that's what I think really stinks, is that you look at it and they're like, there still wasn't technically a path with what we had. But Jahmyr Gibbs felt like he carried the ball more than 9 times, right?
Yeah.
Like 9 times, that's all it was. He did have 4 catches for 40 yards, so he was around the ball quite a bit. Jared Goff doing the thing. I don't want to keep repeating what you're saying. He just did a good job. They did sign Zach Ertz because Sam Laporta, who is not 100%, is the only technical active tight end on that team. So Zach Ertz signed to the practice squad. He may have an opportunity to make a couple plays or two against the 49ers this week.
Yeah. So I'm going to go off on a little tangent real quick. Talking about our boy Baker. As an Oklahoma fan, I'm a back Baker, anytime I can. And the fact is that you have, after that game, I mean, Baker played an incredible game. The last interception, bad. The first interception wasn't his fault. Mike Evans let it go through his hands. And the fact is that you have not all Cleveland Browns fans. There's still Cleveland Browns fans that are, saying we made the wrong decision. We should have kept Baker and over Deshaun. But the fact is you have guys, fans, sports, analysts, talk show hosts, just dogging Baker Mayfield, saying, oh, well, we made the right decision. He made 2 big interceptions. He can't play in these big games. He falls apart in these big games. But you're talking about a team that realistically, I mean, we're talking about this Browns organization that really isn't the Browns organization from Jim Brown's years. This is, 1999, when this is, a restart organization because they sold off and moved to Baltimore. And you're talking about a Browns organization that has had 1 playoff win from 99 until current day. And that guy that got you that playoff win was Baker Mayfield against an arch rival, Steelers, in the playoffs. You went out and traded him a year after. All he did was play hurt the entire season. Gave his heart, soul to that team, and you guys left him out to dry for a guy that basically robbed you of $230 million to sit on the sidelines. He's played 12 games. He's played 12 games, has 16 touchdowns and 10 turnovers in those 12 games. Has barely over 2,500 total yards in these games. Went out there, robbed you. Won't even sit on the sidelines with his teammates when he's hurt. Sits up in a luxury suite with his arms crossed, all just laid back, not down there with his team like Nick Chubb and those other guys that were injured and were out for the season. Were down there with his guys. But you want to dog Baker Mayfield and act like he did nothing for your organization when he's the only reason why you have any hope of a disaster of an organization that you are, the Cleveland Browns. And the fact is that you go on him and say, oh, well, look, he can't play in the big games. Well, how many wins did Deshaun Watson have in the playoffs this year? 0. Baker Mayfield has had as many wins this postseason as the Browns have had since 1999. He's had either part of the wins. He's 1 win for the Cleveland Browns and 1 with the Buccaneers. And outside of that, since even before 1999, 1994 was the last time he had a playoff win. So the fact that you think that he shouldn't have been on the team, if he's on that team, I guarantee you beat the Houston Texans. And that's saying a lot, and that's not taking anything away from what CJ Stroud and that team did in that game. But he put you in a much better situation than what Joe Flacco put you in. And you were searching all year, and you had 10 wins. But you look at that schedule that you played a lot of bad teams. And that's all I got to say. I went off on a little tangent. Get off Baker, because Baker was the best quarterback you've had in your franchise history. And you let him go for a guy who got kicked off his team because he couldn't keep his hands to himself.
Yeah. I mean, Baker has 2 playoff wins. The Browns have 0 outside of Baker. I'm just saying. And like you said, arch rival too. But this is why the Browns are the Browns, right? Like, man, they're just gonna make these kind of decisions until they figure it out. They do stuff like, Detroit right now this year. Hopefully, they can have sustained success because
Mhm.
They've been that team too in the past where they just always get it wrong, always have the wrong, they always lose. They find a way. This year they've had a chance, and to have the Lions in the NFC Championship game is absolutely wild, absolutely wild.
In the Lions, I mean, they have a lot of momentum going forward because you got a lot of young players on that team. Jared Goff, as much as you think he might be old, he's only 29, and you have $65 million in cap space this offseason.
Yeah, they got a
I
lot
mean,
of.
you got a lot of cap space, and you can build this team a little bit more with that window you have with Goff until you have to find your next franchise quarterback.
Yeah. So we're going to move over to the last game before we do some breakdowns for the upcoming ones. The Chiefs Bills. This was the first time that they've had to play in Buffalo with fans since these two guys were the starting quarterback. So Mahomes versus Allen. And here's what's crazy. I didn't realize this, but Allen is undefeated in the regular season, and Patrick Mahomes was undefeated in the playoffs. So I think it was 2-3 going into this. So this was the tall tale. Like, okay, well, is Josh Allen going to be able to get this win in the playoffs, and is Pat going to be able to get this win on the actual road game? And this game lived up to it. I mean, it was back and forth. It didn't seem like teams are going to get to stop each other. Fourth quarter, you finally started to see some stuff like that get figured out, whether it was a turnover here or there, or just punts. Finally, right? There's one punt in the first half,
or a fake punt.
A fake punt was dumb. The fake punt was really dumb. And here's the thing. What game was it? They went for it. I think was it the Lions? They were up 3-0 or no, what? There was a game this weekend. I can't remember which one it was. They were up 3-0, went for it on fourth down, didn't get it, and you could have kicked a field goal, right? Okay, I can't remember which game it was, but you kicked the field goal. I understand it's fourth and short. You don't have to. You want to go for it. But if you go up 6-0 versus 3, or versus 3-0, you just elongated the field that they have to score a touchdown to tie.
And it's the Packers game.
Okay, Packers. Thank you. I could not remember. And I'm like, kick the field goal because you make the field the full distance. Plus, they have to make an extra point. It's not a guarantee like it used to, right? You can block it. It's a longer kick, 40-some yards, I think, or something like that. So, to me, I'm like, if I can shorten the field to where all I have to get to is like the 40-yard line, why wouldn't I do that? If I can kick a 55-yard field goal to tie this, then that makes that window is a lot bigger now. Like I can get there easier. I can get there more plays in less time. So that's what I don't like. The going for it on fourth down. I mean, thank goodness for the Bills. The Chiefs got too cute on their own side, and they fumbled it, but get that to that. But what were your overall thoughts of this game? Is this, I mean, on paper, the Bills dominated the ball. Like they ran the ball effectively well. Just what happened?
I honestly, I think it is the second half. Really, the Chiefs started to settle out a little bit more on the run and was forcing Josh Allen to throw the football a little bit more. And because really that first half, you watch it, and James Cook really dominated the first half of that game running the football on the ground. And second half, he became really ineffective because it seemed like they were, the linebackers were shooting the gaps a little bit more. And I mean, it was a slugfest. It really was. It was one of those games, like you said. We thought maybe it was going to be whoever gets the ball last is probably going to win this football game. We started having a few more stops here and there. I mean, Josh Allen really did all he could in that game. He had 3 passes over 40 yards dropped, and all 3 of them were very catchable. The one to Sherfield hit him in the shoulder. The other one, Stephon Diggs, you're ace. You're your number 1 wide receiver. You're diva that cries because he doesn't get the football, and he lets it go completely through his hands. I mean, and then Sherfield, the other one, was a little tougher, but I mean, it's a play that most wide receivers in the NFL are going to make. And there's a lot of people, like Josh Allen just can't win the big games. He, made a lot of mistakes at the end of the game. But like, was it the 2nd and 9 play where he had the check down to Stephon Diggs, and it looks like it's all wide open, walks for a first down. But the more you watch the play, that defender for the Chiefs dropped off his guy and came down. So even if Stephon Diggs catches the ball, it's probably a 34-yard gain. He has Shakir wide open in the end zone on that play. And the only reason why he doesn't make the play is because his all-pro left tackle gets set in his lap and steps on his foot, so he can't, fire through the, completely on the pass. And if he doesn't, if he steps up maybe a half second, here or there, and then same that last play, the third down play, and they're like, oh, well, he could have checked it down to Dalton Kincaid and got a few yards. Okay, what's a few yards going to do? Because the way he went out there, they basically told him, okay, if we don't get the touchdown, we're going for the field goal to tie the ball game. I think it would have been different. They probably would have out there and said, hey, just get a few yards and make it a shorter fourth down. We'll go for it instead of going for the home run play. Yeah. And that was the situation. And the people are like, oh, he didn't play good. He's the reason they lost. He's not the reason they lost. He's really the only reason why they were in that game at all. I mean, the play to Shakir on the sidelines in the end zone, the 2 touchdown runs. I mean, he was unstoppable on the ground. And as much as everyone was talking about, oh, James Cook, he's the reason why the offense was moving, Josh Allen outran him, outgained him on the ground. Josh Allen has proven, really, besides maybe last year, against the Bengals, that the guy can make the plays. He just hasn't had a full team, game in those big moments, especially, and they've all been against the Chiefs, which is the bad part for him. But I mean, that Patrick Mahomes, that Chiefs offense looks different than we've seen all year. These last 2 weeks, Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco. I've never seen a man run like he's angry at the ground like he does. I mean, he looks like he's trying to stomp a hole into the ground every single step he takes. And it's really been the biggest difference for him is they've found some rhythm on offense, and somehow MVS catches 2 passes.
Both balls over 30 yards. Dude, he caught it. What in the world?
Yeah. And so, I mean, really, it's the same thing we've been saying since last year. You never count out Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, and so all of the things that you talked about with the Bills, they had a chance to tie it in the end. Josh Allen is 100% of the reason. He put that team on his back. And last year it was, hey, this team doesn't have the run game to support it. The year before, they didn't have the defense to support it. This year it was they had the run game. The receivers let them down. And that's the heartbreaking part is we've had these pieces. We have these pieces currently. And to lose – in that way, I mean, that's heartbreaking. Wide right is just, it should be that should be an outlawed phrase in Buffalo. I mean, this is New York's favorite team, and to lose again to Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I'm fine with it. Honestly, it's fine with me.
But I mean, you're Stephon Diggs in this game, and like you said, all season, all you've done is gripe and complain that you're not getting the football enough, especially toward the latter part of the season. And you have 3 catches on 8 targets for 21 yards in this game when you had a shot to make a big play down the field, 65 yards in the air, perfect pass. The defender's laying on the ground, and you T-Rex arm it. You don't extend out and just let it go right through your hands. It's just you can't gripe and complain, and then when it comes your time, not perform the way you should in the playoffs like you did in that game because you really you let Josh Allen down.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Josh Allen's got to feel like, what more do you want? Greg in the chat was saying the best part of the whole thing was Jason Kelsey's celebration. That was pretty great. That's a man who's going to enjoy some retirement, some well-earned retirement for sure, cheering on his brother. That was super cool to see. The snowballs, loved it. Loved the snowballs coming in. Get out. I'm like, yeah. I think it'd be cool if I was a fan. I would try to hit one of the players. I don't want to, but it's not going to be a mean thing. But I completely, dude. You see, I threw a snowball and I hit Mahomes. That would.
Yeah. So I've got one question. There's the touchback rule that they're talking about changing. Yeah. What is your take on this? Because I have my take, and I feel like it's probably a take most people won't agree with, but I'm interested in your take. What you think?
Every other play with a fumble out of bounds, who gets the ball?
The offensive team.
Okay, so why is this the only one where it's different?
because the end zone matters. It matters that you, and to me, what this is my take on it, and it's that you are basically incentivizing. It's okay if you fumble and it goes out of the back of the end zone, because if that's the case, I fumble on the 1 yard line. You know what I'm doing? I'm kicking that thing out of the back of the end zone. I don't care if it's a flag. I still get to keep the football. Yeah. And so you're not penalizing them for fumbling the football. And that's I get that, any other spot in the field, it's the offensive ball. Yeah. But there's a difference. There's a reason why everyone's trying to get to the end zone, because you have to earn it. And if you make that mistake and you fumble on the 1 yard line and it goes out of the back of the end zone, then that's on you. You shouldn't be rewarded and go, oh, here's the football back. Go try again. I think that everyone that's crying about it is just, it's mainly offensive players. They're like, oh, it shouldn't be, we should get the ball back. I mean, if that's the case, and like I said, if I fumble and I'm on the 1 yard line and it maybe going, I'm kicking it. I'm going to punch it. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it go out the back of the end zone, because I'm not getting penalized. I'll get a 5 yard, 10 yard flag. Cool. At least I still get my chance of team at points.
Someone did that this week though. Didn't you?
Yeah.
See that?
Dalton Kincaid. Yeah. Batted at back. Yeah.
Here's the thing: if they switched the rule, I wouldn't complain either. Like I'd be like, if they left it, and I'm not upset about it. The thing I'm upset about is you calling a stupid, cute run play with your wide receiver at the goal line when everyone's trying to strip the ball and they're going to hit harder because they don't have to backpedal. They're only going side to side and they're going to try and take you out. And it showed it as soon as I saw. I was like, this is dumb. Stop getting overly cute and just run the ball. That's probably what Jason Kelsey was saying afterwards up in that booth or that suite, was like, why don't they just run the ball with Pacheco? The dude hates the ground. He probably loves the end zone.
Yeah. You ran basically the same play. One was a little tip pass to him, and he fumbled twice.
I know, dude.
Why am I going to go back to it after he did it the first time? Why am I going to go back to that same play in a dire moment when a touchdown puts the game probably out of reach? I'm going to give it to Pacheco. I'll give it to CEH. I'll do something. I'll give the ball to Travis Kelsey. Yeah. Someone that I know is going to keep a hold of the football, not the guy that's already fumbled once trying to make a play out of nothing. Yeah. He has to know that's the one cardinal rule. If you know you can't get to the end zone and you have more downs left, you can't reach for the end zone. Yeah. And it was kind of one of those plays where I'm kind of surprised they overturned it. It was bang, bang. But the fact that they did, I think it was, kind of a, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
I think it was, if I was a Bills fan, I would have been furious had they not. As a Chiefs fan, I understood that they overturned, that they did a fumble. Made sense. Looked like it was a fumble. You know what? Don't put yourself in that position. It's easier to say that now that we won. But for the record, when they were driving down before they missed that field goal wide right, I definitely thought that they were going to run the rest of the clock out and win. So
yeah, I did too.
But I was just thinking back to that play, like that was the one. That's the one you can't have. So we'll transition a little bit here into the actual prediction side of things. But what team looked like the most complete team that you saw of this that won and it's going into this?
It was the Ravens. They, from start to finish, I mean, like I said, the first half score, I don't think really was indicative of how well they controlled that first half.
Yeah.
I think they looked like the most complete team, and maybe Grant, they were playing the weaker of all the teams, but still they went out there and did what they needed to do and done what they've done really pretty much since week 4 on.
Yeah, they I would agree that they were my pick here. If Mecole Hardman doesn't turn the ball over, they score on that touchdown and they end up winning. What would that have been? 34-24, I think. Yeah. Would that change your answer?
Probably not, just because I think that we saw a lot more cracks in the defense than we've seen for the Chiefs, because before that, I mean, they gave up 180 yards rushing in the game, and that's the first time they've done that. It was, a lot of firsts throughout the season. Grant, you are playing Josh Allen, you are playing an incredible offense, and a team that was on a, hot streak pretty much for the last, 7 weeks they've been playing in playoff games, and so they've had that momentum. But I still feel like the overall game that the Ravens threw out there, they were just, I mean, they controlled the game the whole time.
Yeah, they definitely did. I will sound biased if I say the Chiefs, so I'm going to say the Chiefs. Only because, like, in that game, they punted the ball, I think, once. They kneeled down once. They turned the ball over once, and it was a dumb play call. It was a second dumb play call. But to me, like, if maybe I'm probably thinking different too. If Diggs makes that catch, or one of those big plays, they actually get it. But they could not pass the ball. I mean, they just didn't have any success, and maybe that's part of the reason why they didn't catch the ball is they were out of rhythm and didn't have the confidence, things like that. They could run the ball, but they could not pass the ball. And that's what's scary is this next round is you're gonna have to stop the run. If you can make Baltimore pass, I think you're in a much better position. And I don't think they have nearly the skill position players that that Buffalo had or any other teams, Miami. So I would say that, but so both of us would say the AFC. So this is my point is the AFC is Goliath and the NFC is David, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think whoever wins, the AFC will be the favorite in the Super Bowl. Whoever loses, I mean, even if San Francisco wins, I think it would be like a 1.5 favorite for the AFC, but still.
Yeah.
Looking at this, rank your quarterbacks from 1 to 4. 1 being the best, 4 being the worst of the 4 remaining quarterbacks. I'm very curious.
It's Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, as well as he's played this year. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy. I haven't felt good about the way Brock Purdy's played towards the end of the season. He really didn't play great. Maybe that game-winning drive will kick something in, but that's how I have it right now.
Yeah, that's the exact same order I have. So the big one I think most people are like the MVP candidate up until like week 16 was Brock Purdy. People have said that. Let me just throw some stuff out for you. In games this season that are in close games, 0-7 score. Now, they don't have a whole lot of those, just for the record, with the margin of victory is that. He has no touchdowns, no picks, because most of their games are blowouts. 8 to 14 point, there are 5 touchdowns to 1 pick. He has good completion percentages. Numbers look good, but an overwhelming majority have been these big blowout wins, 15 plus points, where he has 23 touchdowns, only 1 pick. What alarms me is in the fourth quarter, within 1 possession, he's 13 of 18, 46% completion, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Less than 2 minutes to go in the half. He's same thing, 53% completion percentage with only 1 touchdown and 1 interception. To me, that's why I'm worried about actually how good is Brock Purdy. Maybe he's going to, shut us all up after this week. But I look at that and I'm saying, I'm a little bit nervous. Putting my trust in him. The good news is he's got CMC in his back pocket that he can just hand the ball off to 20 times and throw it to him 10 times.
Well, I mean, before this game in Kyle Shanahan's career, he was 0-30, and when they trailed by 5 or more in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that speaks to they're not a team that can come from behind. And it's one of those things, if they're in a dogfight and team scores late, do they have the capacity to be able to get down the field and score and, win the game? Yeah, they showed it against the Packers, but we're talking about a different, animal when you're talking about the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs coming up.
Yeah. Well, let me give you those same 2 key stats, the close games. Fourth quarter, plus or minus 1 possession. Jared Goff, bigger sample size, 73% completion percentage, 10 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Last 2 minutes of the half, he has a 65% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, those numbers right there, if it's a close game, Dan Campbell's he's going to go for it. That's the one knock in looking at these numbers was 4th down to go. Probably shouldn't be throwing as much as they are. That's the one you're like, I wouldn't have done that one. I think his numbers, where it was at 4th down, his completion percentage is only 40% with 1 touchdown, 3 picks. So that's what I think could hurt them. But the other numbers, I'm telling you right now, Jared Goff, this Lions team, they could be a sneaky pick, and they are like 6.5 point or something like that under in this game, which is, I know they're on the road, and I know it's the number 1 seed, but Matt, you give me one possession, who do you want? And I think that's why I wanted to ask the question of where you going to rank these quarterbacks, because I think that's a really big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, especially playoff football.
Yeah. Yeah, playoff football. That's what it's going to come down to. So the first game is the Chiefs at Baltimore. Weather's going to be in the 40s or something like that, so it's going to be fine. This game, just like the last one, home team is the favorite. ESPN Massive Predictor has a 63% chance to win, which is more than what the Buffalo Bills had to win this game. But I'd love to know, I mean, who do you got in this game, and why do you have them?
I mean, we've seen Lamar Jackson double his playoff total wins, in this, this one game last week. But you know what? I'm still never going to doubt Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo. As good as the Ravens have played, and as good as they looked last week, this is a completely different animal. Lamar Jackson, most of these players have never been here, never been in this situation, never, this is most of these guys, this is their first playoff win, last week. Mm-hmm. You're going up against a guy that has won 2 straight Super Bowls, has won to 6 straight AFC championship games, has been there, done that, been to, 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them. I just think the experience outweighs them. Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, they're going to just find a way. They just find a way to win, and that offense has looked better. The big question for me is Joe Thuney. What comes of the pectoral injury? Because Justin Madubuike has been an absolute monster in the inside this year. If Thuney's out, it could change some things, because Joe Thuney's probably the best right guard in football, or left guard in football. And if he's out, now you got to find a way to fill that hole. But I just feel like everyone has doubted the Chiefs, especially because, I mean, honestly, they didn't have a great year. The record, okay, but really they didn't play great. But we've seen a different, Chiefs, team in these playoffs, and I think that's the difference. I think Patrick Mahomes is experienced. He will find a way to win this football game, and I feel like it's going to be Lamar Jackson's going to see the ghost of playoff past, and he's going to struggle. I think it could be a close game. I think it probably will be. They've got 2 really good defenses, but I just feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way.
To Lamar's credit, he has performed. He's just gotten better as the year has gone along. Mm-hmm. I am not picking against Patrick Mahomes. I can't. We're in the Kansas City today again, and maybe I'm dumb, but we made the mistakes too many years in a row with the Patriots and Tom Brady, and I made that same comparison the last couple of times we've talked about the Chiefs, and that's just where they're at right now. 6 straight AFC championships for a reason. Now, no team has won back-to-back Super Bowls in quite some time, so I mean it's going to be tough for them to do it, because it hasn't been done in so long, and doesn't even mean they're going to make the Super Bowl. I mean, would that be? That would just be 2 in a row. So it's only like they're in 3 in a row, but. It looks like, I mean, Travis Kelce did a good job. The biggest thing is the Chiefs will have to run the ball, and they're going to have to stop the run. If they can do that, they'll be able to win this game. One possession, give me a toss-up. This is going to be a great one. I think the bummer is that this is the first game and not the evening game. That's the one I'm super about. I think the NFL, I mean, that's just the way it wound up being in this playoff. But that is, I mean, when you have Goliath versus, that battle, it's going to be, like, okay, well, I hope the second game's good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I just feel like last year proved a lot, and a lot of people doubted Patrick Mahomes because of the injuries. Now everyone's doubting Patrick Mahomes because they didn't play good on offense. I think they win. I just feel like they find a way to pull out a close win, and everyone is like, oh, if you're, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who would you rather play? And a lot of people are like, oh, I'd rather play Patrick Mahomes because the Chiefs aren't playing good. I'm like, give me Josh Allen any day in the Buffalo Bills, because I know Patrick Mahomes and that team knows how to win and knows how to get there and knows how to, knows what it takes to be a championship winning team. None of these teams in the playoffs know how to do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing is this Bills game, with the Chiefs. As I was trying to get to earlier with like, hey, the lack of punting. I know they had the turnover, but that turnover was at like the 1.5 yard line. Like they were
Mhm.
almost perfect.
Yeah.
Right. At the Eagles last year in the second half, they were perfect. They had every single yard that they needed. The only reason why they didn't finish it with the full amount was because they kicked a field goal, in the end
Mhm.
after they, slid down and take all the time all the way down. And I mean, that means you have to be perfect.
Yep.
You got to be perfect to win, or you have to hope that perfection stops. And it could. I mean, it could
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
some bad plays, drops, but it's going to be tough. Oh my gosh. Right now, sorry, as I'm looking this up, you can get tickets to the game Lions versus 49ers for as low as how many dollars do you think right now?
Oh,
As
I
low
don't
as you
know.
think.
It's lower, and I think.
What'd you say?
I don't know, 100 or $250.
$17.
Nuh-uh.
Dude, I'm looking at it right now on ESPN. It says as low as $17. I don't know, man. You
How?
want to go to San Francisco this week?
I mean,
What is
yeah.
it? There's no way. Oh, it's a watch party. It's the Detroit Lions
Oh, okay.
party.
I was
That
gonna say.
Yeah, that's funny. Good for them. I didn't realize that. I don't know why that's the one. Because it literally says 49ers versus Lions, Levi Stadium, Sunday, tickets as low as $17. And it's the fine tickets ticket. It's the one that you see on every single one. But
That's
that's
weird.
why. All right. Anyway, random thing there. So we got San Francisco 49ers hosting the Lions. This is, first time since 1991 that they've done it. It's going to be 69, partly sunny, beautiful day for football out in San Francisco. Honestly, that's about 15 degrees warmer than it has been over there. And it shouldn't
Mhm.
be rainy like it was this last time. Who you got in this game and why?
Man, this one, I mean, NFC North guy. I mean, I don't want to see another NFC North team win.
I get that.
And as much as the Lions, I mean, they went through a lot. And I have a really good friend, Tony is a diehard Lions fan. I hate the 49ers also. I mean, it's
Oh,
kind of one of those things. I have to pick someone.
yeah.
And you know what? Give me the Detroit Lions.
Oh, dude, I already wrote down San Francisco thinking that's what you were going to do.
That San Francisco team did not look good to me. The run defense looked abysmal. And the Packers, they have a solid run game. Aaron Jones is really good. That offensive line from the Lions is one of the tops in the NFL. Those edge rushers, Bosa and Chase Young, were getting blocked by wide receivers in the run game.
Yeah, they were getting, absolutely pushed off
Can
the
you
line.
imagine Penei Sewell or Taylor Decker, someone Frank Ragnow, pulling and blocking down the field? I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the biggest X factor in this game. If they can get him going, get that, see what we've been seeing from him, the dynamic plays, pass game, run game. I don't know if they can stop him because they struggled stopping Aaron Jones. And, like I said, the Packers' run game isn't the best. They are a much better pass offense. And Aaron Jones really, for the most part, I felt like they should have ran the ball more. They had a heck of a game.
Yeah.
It was the first time that they allowed over a 100-yard rusher in 51 games.
Wow.
Now we're talking about a team that has two really good running backs and one that's just absolutely dynamic and could potentially, be somewhat close to that CMC role in the next couple of years where you don't want to see the guy on the field because he can either catch the ball in the backfield or he can, make a huge chunk run play. So I think that's going to be the biggest X factor. And like I said, Brock Purdy hasn't wowed me the last few weeks. I mean, the last few games that he's played, you see the Baltimore game where he just absolutely struggled. And it
Yeah.
seems like when he struggles, it's in bunches. It's usually a 3 or 4 game stretch where he struggles. They had the 3-game losing streak, him throwing a lot of interceptions. He should have had 2 against the Packers. The secondary for the Lions will be the biggest question, but if Debo doesn't play, this offense becomes a lot different. And I don't know if Debo plays. I'm going to just go with the Hail Mary. Hope for Tony's sake that the Lions can get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think elementary James right now, dude, this is a matchup I would have loved. This
Yeah.
never happened when I grew up. I love Barry Sanders and I really loved the Lions. And then I got tired of that ownership. And man, the culture shift that they have. I saw a video of just like it was obviously one of their like early summer practice, one of their early summer practices right? Where he's like, if you give me as much as you can, I promise I'm going to put you in the position to win. And I was like, bro, let me suit up. I mean, I'm not going to suit up. Thank goodness I'm not big enough to be in the NFL. But I was like, that's why people want to play for him. That's why their culture has changed. When I look at some of the other coaches, I saw a similar video to Arizona's coach at the beginning of this same season, and I was like, bro, I wouldn't get out of bed for this guy. Like, snooze, you're terrible. Like, he's just not. That's just not his gift. And Campbell has this air about him, and he's like, if we win, it's because you did exactly what you're supposed to do. If we lose, it's because I didn't put you in position to win. And that's a leader that I think the Lions love, that team loves. So give me the Lions in this game. I think the biggest X factor, I've been saying run game this whole time. So you know what? You already said it. I'm going to change it up. I'm going to say it's going to be quarterbacks. Right? Which quarterback makes more mistakes? And I think there's going to be two big mistakes from the losing quarterback. Calling it here now, whether it's Brock Purdy, bad throw, bad decision, something like that, or Jared Goff. I'm going to give both of them are going to have at least one pick, right, in this game. Because people you're going to be aggressive. You're playing to win this game. But I think from what I've seen Brock Purdy, I don't know that he's that guy. Yeah. So and you have CMC, and that's the thing. If you're a 49ers fan and you're looking at this team, and you're a Bills fan, you're looking at this team, you're like, man, our window's here, and there's no way that the 49ers are going to go get another quarterback. How are they going to get another quarterback? Who are they going to get? Kirk Cousins? Yep. Okay, all right, fine, they'll be better.
Yeah,
but this team, I mean, I would love to see the Lions win. I think that'd be incredible. But right now, the script says it's going to be Baltimore and San Francisco. And that's also what the color scheme for the logos is. So I guess we're going to be wrong.
I will say there's another, I think, big aspect of this game that could come into effect. And as much as I love Kyle Shanahan, I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I have him up there, top 3 coaches in the NFL right now. His time management at halftime and late games has been a problem. I mean, you saw it with the Packers game. Halftime, you have 3 timeouts. You're at midfield, and you don't call a single timeout, and you just let the clock run. And then what happens? You end up missing, getting the field goal blocked at the end of halftime. And then same thing, they played better, with the run, or with the clock and stuff. But they gave the Packers, potentially too much time, too much march down the field, score, either tie it up or win the game. His time management skills are not great. And that could come down to a factor, especially if it is a very close game. And he's shown, like you said, the record proves in close games, especially in the fourth quarter, he does not have a very good track record of winning, especially if they're down.
I think a big part of that is that, and then the quarterback he has, right? And now, we're not big fans of Brock Purdy. The NFL is, but we'll see what the tape says on next week when we record. But we hope that you all enjoyed this episode. We hope that you guys are stoked for what championship weekend is going to look like, championship Sunday. Go Chiefs, go Lions. That's what I think we all want to see. I mean, people don't want to see the Ravens. They want to see the 49ers boring.
I mean, I know a lot of people don't want to see the Chiefs, just to be honest. Most of America does not want to see the Chiefs. It's kind of getting into that Patriots realm where everyone's like, I just want to see them lose.
You know what?
But you know what?
This is good,
right? Hey, it's good for you, right?
Yeah. So we'll follow on the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed. We are over 200 strong on the YouTube page. So thank you guys so much for all the support, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and being a part of it. Make sure you always comment if you got your picks. We'd love to know what your record is whenever we go and how it stacks up against the greatness of Tubby and his expertise and my guessing. But we will continue this episode after we hit in over on the YouTube side with some quick baseball news because, believe it or not, we're 3 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting.
Yes.
So, till then, we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
All right. There we go. All right, so we got quick news, everybody. You probably saw it. Josh Hader is, unfortunately, signing with the Astros. It's just another reason to not like the guy, not like Astros to me.
Right? I mean, you went from a team I despise in the Padres to a team I just absolutely loathe and hate in the Astros. I mean,
despise the Brewers. Always.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are you doing? Yeah, I mean, they paid the guy.
Either.
What?
He didn't get as much money as Diaz, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, it's kind of weird. Really, the only team that's shelled out money this year has been the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, 95 million. I mean, he's still got a pretty sizable contract for a relief pitcher when you never know when he's going to hit that wall and just completely fall off. That's one thing with the closers. We've talked about, since we've been doing this, relief pitching is the biggest wild card when it comes to baseball because you never know. From one year to the next, you could have the best bullpen in baseball, and next year have the worst bullpen in baseball because these unknown guys had a great year, then all of a sudden they come back down to earth. Josh Hader, he has been one of the best closers in baseball, since he's been in the majors. But like I said, you just never know when they hit that wall.
Sorry, actually muted there. I totally agree. I don't think it's enough for they're battling against the Rangers at this point. So we're going to do a breakdown of all the baseball going into it, but they haven't been as active, I think, as Astro fans were hopeful for after a disappointing last season. The Braves have continued to make some moves. They're not necessarily going for big money, but they continue to make some moves. How big of a deal? I mean, we didn't talk about this when it happened, but since we brought it up, how big of a deal is Chris Sale?
It depends on which Chris Sale you're getting. Are you getting, Chris Sale that can be a front of the line ace pitcher to go along with, Spencer Strider and Max Fried, or are you getting the often injured and when he's, healthy, a kind of shaky Chris Sale? I don't know. I've questioned a lot of what the Braves have done this offseason. You have parted way with a lot of your farm system, which has been your biggest weapon over the last few years. I mean, you look at that team, and most of that team is all farm-raised players, and you've traded this now for like random guys. Like you traded, a couple of your top prospects for Jared Kelenic, who has really vastly half a good season last season and has vastly disappointed in what everyone expected from him from, his prospect rankings and stuff like that. And you traded a couple really good, potential arms like Ian Anderson, who had a really solid season a couple years ago, for a bullpen arm from the Royals who has absolutely done nothing with the career ERA of like 5.4. It's been kind of head scratching. Like Vaughn Grissom was supposed to be the shortstop of your future, and you trade him for Chris Sale, which if Chris Sale is right, you got you a heck of a starting pitcher because as much as they don't want to admit it a whole lot, the Braves starting pitcher is a little shaky because you got, Charlie Morton, who has pitched good, but, a little shaky. Strider really tailed off towards the end of the season. Max Fried's had injury history, but you bring in a guy that's had injury history, and last year, the last few years hasn't really pitched really great and hasn't pitched a whole lot. So it's kind of one of those things. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. I feel like that they kind of blew it up for like their farm system for no reason and got really nothing in return.
Yeah. They put themselves in the position to almost need to do that though, based off the extensions that they've given before arbitration and stuff like that. So this is something that we haven't really seen a team do like this in the 2010 time period on forward. So a team that's set up for success, right? But if something doesn't work out, or if they did sign the deal too early, I mean, as a Cardinal fan, I've seen us sign deals too early. Speaking of which, we got Carpenter back. But it can come back to bite you in the butt. And so hopefully for their sake and for the Braves fans, it's a good fan base that it doesn't happen. But like this is the weakness of that.
But the thing for them is the guys that they have signed. And the crazy thing is the contracts were actually really team friendly. The Acuna deal is crazy for what he has done. The Austin Riley deal, crazy good. The Michael Harris one's really the only one that I go, you never know. But he played way better towards the second half of the season than he did early on in the season. We saw kind of a flip-flop of his rookie year where, rookie season had an incredible first half, terrible second half. This year, last year, really bad first half, really good second half where Ozzy Albies is a guy that, is just a consistent, really good player. So it's not like they haven't extended guys that you go, ooh, we don't know. I mean, maybe Michael Harris is the only one that could potentially, but I don't know. It's just kind of a weird situation, I think, that because you haven't even re-signed Max Fried. Which is, crazy.
Yeah. I don't know about you. That gets me excited for baseball season. I talked to a
Oh
guy
yeah.
the other day. I had to go. We had a delivery at work that went to the building behind us. So I went in there and I found someone. Dude was wearing a St. Louis Blues hat. So I was like, "From St. Louis, right?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And so I said, "Yeah." I said, "Big Blues fan, obviously, because he's wearing it. Like that's easy."
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Cardinals fan." And he goes, "Oh yeah." And we talked Cardinals baseball for like a 5 minutes. And dude, it was like we were living in St. Louis. It was amazing. And I was like, man, we didn't skip a beat. This is awesome. You can't really do that as much right now. I mean, you can with football, but just not with baseball yet because we're in
Yeah.
Kansas. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm getting. I mean, as a Dodgers fan, this is probably the most excited I've been for a season with what we've done in the off season. So
oh,
I'm all
yeah,
geared up for baseball. Yeah. I mean, hey, don't don't hate them because they went out and spend the money. I mean,
I hate your team because you didn't do it.
yeah.
No,
I
I got
mean,
Lance Lynn. I'm good. Okay, we got your Thank you, sir.
yeah, exactly. That's the pitcher that the Cardinals were needing last year was Lance Lynn. That was the missing piece. But
Well, we hope that y'all enjoyed this episode. We hope that y'all enjoy Championship Sunday, and we will be back next week as we break down what the Super Bowl was going to look like, what matchups happen. Hopefully, it's Chiefs Lions, but time will tell.
yeah, let's hope. Chiefs Lions.
See y'all.
See ya.